Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the June OpenNTF webinar. We have a whole cast of people from HCL who are going to kind of bring you up to date on where they're at. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Howard Greenberg, and along with Graham Akers, and we also have Jesse Gallagher on board from the OpenNTF board, we're going to be your host. So I welcome everyone to the webinar and thank you for attending. And today, as I mentioned, we got a whole bunch of people from HCL. We're going to kind of get the high-level view from Richard Jefts, and then Jason Gary will talk a little more about the products coming out. And then we're going to dive into each of the products from the various people involved with those particular products. Domino and Notes and Volt, and Sametime, Connections, and Digital Experience. And then at the end, we'll have some questions for our panel. So just want to double check is everyone hearing me on the panel? If someone can give me a thumbs up or come online and just make sure the audio sounds okay?
Yes, we can hear you great, Howard. You're good.
Thank you. I just saw a question came up about audio. So if you're not hearing me, well, then you won't know that you're not hearing me. But anyway, questions. So questions you'll see in your GoToWebinar interface on the presentation slide. There's a little questions pane. If you have any questions for our presenters, please go ahead and post your question as they come up. At the end of the webinar, we'll answer your questions verbally. So we will not really be answering questions in the GoToWebinar interface. We want to get those questions recorded as part of the audio and video that we are going to also put up on the OpenNTF website in our YouTube channel. So please, ask your questions, and the questions will be handled at the end verbally. So don't expect an answer in the questions pane. So with that, let me just do, while we're waiting for a couple more, more people to attend, we did have quite a few people register. And a lot of people are just getting signed on. Let's take a quick poll, and just to kind of see where everyone's at in terms of your use of HCL products. If you could take a look at that and select one or as many as you actually use, we'll give everyone a few minutes to, or a minute or two to respond to that. Now, while everyone's finishing up, just to those of you who didn't attend our last OpenNTF webinar, this is kind of the start of an initiative OpenNTF has started to try to do bring more technical content and into the community, try to get the community a little more involved. So we are going to try to do a webinar at least monthly. And part of the survey that you'll get at the end of this webinar asks you for ideas on what topics you might want to be covered. And those could be on technical, the various products, or maybe an OpenNTF project or whatever, anything that you think might be useful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the survey, and we can look at the results. So it looks like the vast majority of the folks, I'll have to share this. Hold on, got to click the little button. Okay, so it looks like the vast majority of people are using Notes and Domino, and almost half of you are using Sametime, and then there's a little bit of Connections and Digital Experience in there. So that's great. Thanks for answering that. That's interesting to know. Okay, let's turn things over to Richard. Let's see. Oh, and before I do, one more thing. Especially since HCL is on the call today, we'd like to thank the people at HCL for helping out the OpenNTF organization. OpenNTF, as you know, is strictly a nonprofit group run by volunteers. So we definitely thank our sponsors, and as well as Prominic, who handles all our hosting and infrastructure. So thank you to our sponsors. So I'm going to go, Richard, make you the presenter.
Thank you, Howard. All right, just bear with me. me go to and show this window. And if you could tell me if it should be going up into presentation mode, hopefully.
Yeah, we see your entire screen.
Okay.
It's not in presentation mode yet.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a bummer. Sometimes it, let me just, let me stop showing and then I'll re-show. Let's see if that helps.
Do you have two monitors, Richard?
No, it does this to me sometimes. Is it okay if I run it on from here though at this view, or is that not going to work? Because I'm going to presentation mode, but it's not cooperating here.
Did you share your entire screen?
No, I just shared PowerPoint.
That's the problem. Yeah, you have to either share your entire screen or share the presentation part, the full screen part of PowerPoint, because it's just picking that one executable.
Bear with me. Main screen. Let's see if this works any better. And again, I apologize to folks here. Just bear with me. And there you go. I think that worked. Look at that technology. Excellent. Okay, perfect. So again, thank you, Howard. I appreciate the opportunity here to speak to the OpenNTF community. And really, before I begin, what I wanted to do was, first, I wanted to just thank the OpenNTF board, all of the people that have been heavily involved in OpenNTF, the contributors, our partners, our customers. It really has been a long partnership for OpenNTF and previously IBM. But I can tell you that from an HCL perspective, it's an important partnership for us. And as I think Howard noted, we are continuing to contribute to the OpenNTF community. And I expect that, as Jason discusses in a little bit, I expect that you're going to see more contribution from us from a development perspective. So with that, what I'd like to do is first, I want to share with all of you a little bit of broader visibility. I think we at times focus extensively on digital solutions and really just that one part of the overall portfolio for HCL software. And I really wanted to give you at a high level a sense of what you're looking at from an HCL software portfolio perspective at this time. So we've really broken it up into these four major pillars. You have customer experience here on the left, which is, you folks all know the Unica product as well as commerce. And we also believe DX is a key part of that overall solution and experience. You all well know digital solutions and the aspects of the portfolio there. And you can see again where we are fortunate enough to where aspects of our portfolio are leveraged across the broader software portfolio as well, including the secure DevOps team, where we're doing a lot of work with them around OneTest as well as Velocity. And then finally, you have the security and automation area, which is heavily integrated and led by BigFix. And then on top of these pillars, many have heard from Engage, where we announced Sophie, which is our cloud native platform and our beginnings of a solution factory. And we expect that the broader portfolio for digital solutions will be supported the late summer timeframe for Sophie. And then there are some other platform components and tools that we leverage more horizontally across the HCL software portfolio. But I think the one message I want to leave you with here is this is a $1 billion plus software business. There are roughly only 30 billion-dollar software businesses in the world. And so, in the last year, well, it hasn't even been a year, this portfolio has just grown dramatically. And, I think this is, again, just the beginning of what you're going to see from an investment perspective from broader HCL into the HCL software business. So we're excited about where we are from an overall portfolio perspective. And I thought it was important for you to fully understand the broader breadth that, it does have many, many other products and components that we believe as we continue this journey, we'll start to leverage them and become much more better together, which is one of our major themes, and integrated across the broader stack. So next I wanted to talk a bit about really what's been top of mind for myself and the broader leadership across digital solutions. And really, when we look at it, and we look at it from a what I would say tactical perspective right now, and for us, tactical is honestly the next year. And so you're going to see the continued momentum that we've been very focused on, and frankly, one of what I would call our core norms of if we make a commitment, we will deliver. And so first, we are still focused heavily on HCL Domino version 12. And the thing that I wanted to raise there is that, in our continued evolution of our software development, we're looking at how do we get our software to our customers and partners much faster. And one good example of that for version 12 is we are now working on a continuous delivery beta option for Domino. And we are targeting to have that available in the August timeframe for all of you. So we'll have a containerized beta available on a regular basis where we can continue to get that feedback from all of you and make those adjustments in a much more agile CDI approach. As well, you should see here, we've got Connections is also going to be focused on a beta in the summer timeframe as well at the tail end, where they'll actually be doing very similar. And then we obviously, in the very, very short term, that's top of mind is, we have Sametime version 11.5 coming out here shortly. And we just finalized the commitment to release HCL DX this month as well. So lots happening, lot of moving pieces, but I think the team is continuing to be very, very focused on the plan that we have and executing upon it. The other thing that we're heavily focused, and you've heard this from us, and we're starting to really push on this, is our marketing plan. And taking a lot of our investment and focusing much more on digital, social, and virtual. And I'll cover that much more in the next couple slides. And then obviously connecting, right? We are maintaining our connection internally. All of our employees are still working from home. So we're still working on, maintaining that tight conduit that we need internally to ensure that we're maintaining the momentum and the execution that we need, but also just ensuring that people feel part of a team and are feeling still, comfortable with the current dynamics that we have. And then obviously on the transition side, there's quite a bit there around adapting how we work and really focusing on how we build software in the future. And I'm going to again cover that a bit more here in a moment. So let's talk a little bit more about the marketing side. Oops, sorry, just lost you guys. There you go. Here's some of the things that we're focused on from a marketing perspective. So as I noted, we're continuing the momentum and the investments where we've been making, but we're also adjusting in areas. So a lot more focus in the analyst side, right? So we've had countless meetings across the portfolio with IDC, with Forrester, with Gartner, with other more boutique-like analysts like Constellation as well. And we're going to continue to double down on those investments and aligning with our story around where we're going and ensuring that the analysts are bought in and have some ability to actually influence that for us. And I can tell you that we've been heavily engaged with Wayne Katzman from IDC on the collaboration side. And the feedback we've gotten from him recently is we're on the right track, right? And that's what we're trying to do with these folks on a regular basis, is ensure that we're staying where we need to and then in the right lane. The other area that I want to continue to talk a bit about is in the middle here, right? And so one thing you're seeing us adjust on is we're becoming much more CDCI focused, and a lot of investment around how do we get value to our customers faster. And that's actually adjusting our drumbeat of how we're communicating via marketing and those investments. So a simple example of that is DX is releasing on almost a monthly basis at this point. That has now forced us to have a regular cadence around our communication and marketing. And I think it's a great thing for us, by the way, where we're now having a regular touch point with our customers and our partners around our broader story. And then on the third and final one is lots of investment has been actually happening in the regional marketing areas. So we've made significant investment in Germany, as an example, an area where we will be localizing our website in German. So that gives you a sense of where we're starting to become much more targeted around branding and marketing and targeting the right areas within that region to ensure the momentum around the investments we're making. So let's talk about how we continue to meet, right? And so this is just one example of how we are transitioning towards more of a virtual approach at this time. This I wanted to show you is just a continuation of where we believe there's incredible value of engaging our ecosystem, and feel incredibly fortunate with our partners, our user groups, and how they continue to propagate and believe in the message and the momentum that we've been pushing here. But as you can see, we have a really nice cadence going here. And the one thing I want to call out of all of these, and there's lots of things happening in different aspects of the globe with the Russian Notes user group and Let's Connect coming in September and Snug. But the one I wanted to identify here for all of you is we've started to work through an actual virtual factory tour as well. So I wanted to tee that up and let you all know that more to come there. But you know, we believe that we need to adjust and align and actually make it an investment and continue the momentum that we've had around our factory tours. But you can see that we have a full calendar around just events alone up through the end of the year. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to get back to a point where you know, we are meeting physically with these user groups and partner community. This, I'm really proud of what the team has done here, right? I think some of you maybe have heard that we've made an investment in an entire user experience design system. And that design system is now being leveraged not only in digital solutions across our products, but it's actually being leveraged across HCL software. So the team in our UX organization under Tony Blake has been making significant investment of how do we actually sharpen our user experience? How do we drive more simplicity? How do we actually modernize where our products are today? What you're looking at is some of the changes we've made within the digital experience product with their content creator and the DAM release that they have at the end of this month. And we plan on making a lot of these adjustments as we go along in the broader portfolio, but I wanted to share this as just one example of many that are coming around our focus around user experience and becoming much more customer centric. We're incredibly excited about introducing the HCL Digital Solutions Academy. This is an area where it just kicked off in the last couple months. We did a soft launch in May. This has been led by a gentleman that many of you maybe know, Luis Gergay. So we were fortunate to have Luis come and join us in HCL Digital Solutions, and really has taken a lot of the best practices that have been established from his perspective and the broader team's perspective, and we've kicked this whole entire type of an enablement off. And you see here that, again, it's really just the beginning around the investments we made in May, but you're now going to start to see even more in the summer around the content within the website, having a broader academy website, the learnings that will be going in there. And for me, when I looked at this, the main thing that really, really stood out for me was we had over 2,000, so over 2,000 new registrations within 3 days after announcing the Digital Solutions Academy. Gives you a sense of, again, how fortunate we are with the ecosystem and our user groups, but also, you know, we're seeing lots of usage of this, and we'll give you insight as we progress here around you know, adjustments we're making, feedback we're getting from all of you, but actually also how often is the content being leveraged, and the continued focus and investment that we're going to be making here. So let's talk about reimagining our software development. So you know, one of the things that, again, the leadership team in digital solutions has been focused on since really the beginning of the year is we felt like we had an opportunity to really operationalize ourselves, drive much more consistency across the portfolio, and become much more effective with how we're delivering our products, maintaining that quality, but also how we're driving velocity and really ensuring that we're enabling our teams to be the best they can be. And so these are really the 5 major areas that when we looked at what we needed to do from an overall software development perspective and really focus on CDCI, the first thing was all about our people, right? And establishing, an organization that had consistent values, norms, and really establish a culture that we all want to be part of and that we can embrace. The other aspect was really giving much more ownership down to the individual level and less command and control from a people management perspective, and driving clarity on where their roles and responsibilities and what lanes should they be focused on. The second one here around continuous improvement, we had just a short story. We had a 360 review with the connections engineering team this morning, where we walked through their velocity of all the squads that they have. What were the obstacles that were holding up their ability to execute? Where are we on our backlog? How are we doing on our quality metrics? Where are we on our customer engagements from a DOD, from a definition of done? And then what are we doing around our retrospectives? So significant, a lot of these things are happening behind the scenes. And our belief is that investment we got to continue to make, and then you will all reap the benefits of that. And you're just seeing the beginnings of that as we go through it. The third one is all around our go-to-market and customer interaction, right? We have a goal of where we want to get all of our teams down to 2-week sprints, and where at the end of those 2 weeks, those teams have to demo the product to a customer. Now, a customer could be me, it could be Jason Gary, it could be Howard, it could be an actual end customer, but we want to give people the ability to give us feedback and input on how we're actually doing, and then be able to adjust very quickly. And then the fourth one is all around product architecture. And Jason has been leading the way there around our event-driven architecture and our continued focus on how we will become a portfolio that is leveraged via microservices. And so Jason will give you a little bit more insight into what we're doing there and how we're establishing boards and councils and ensuring that we're not being redundant across our stack. So as an example today, Jason will be able to correct me in the next talk, but I believe we have 4 different logging engines today across our portfolio. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We have multiple ways of doing search. Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So there is going to be, and there has been, investment in how do we actually containerize and actually put these into microservices, but more to come on that for sure. And then finally, it's around our investments, right? And how we're going to continue to invest in our people, invest heavily in automation, and how we ensure that we're leveraging our people accordingly. And then also looking and validating our third-party tools and ensuring that we're making the right investments across the portfolio. So a lot more to come. I can tell you personally, I've reaped the benefits of this type of approach in other roles at other companies. And I believe that this is just the beginning of where you folks all on the call here will start to see those results, whether it's quality improvements, simplicity, and velocity. But that is the goal for us, is to continue to improve. So just real quickly, again, around our values, we wanted to be much more focused around the individuals and those interactions, and ensuring those interactions actually drove results and outcomes, and really not be too over-processed in tools, but give people boundaries and the framework to work in their own way. The other area is around just having working software. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Don't be, shooting for 110%. We need to ensure that we're getting the product out there, adjusting, getting feedback, and making the appropriate improvements as we go along. The other areas around, again, customer collaboration, having and hearing from our customers, aligning our backlog, and making the right investments in the right areas based on those discussions and being more transparent and closer with our customers. And then finally, it's about responding to change. And I think I will tell you that I think a good example of that is, just the current scenarios that we're all working in. We've been incredibly fortunate that our teams have continued to be able to build software and continue to push in that momentum that we had, and doing it in a very different world than where we were, and remotely. So we feel good about the adjustments and being able to be agile and respond to change, but also balancing that overall plan as well. So look, we've been very, very busy. This gives you a sense of what we've seen from a download perspective. These are one of the metrics that we measure on a regular basis here. And you can see here that we've had over 2,400 downloads of version 11 of Domino. We've had well over 1,500 of HCL Domino version 11.0.1. And then you see on connections, we're getting lots of momentum as well in connections with over 300. And then finally with DX, we've seen 160, and we're looking forward to our next release and the upgrade volumes that we have there, the download volumes. And then finally, HCL Sametime 11.5 has not even been released, but within our internal and external betas, we have well over 500 downloads of Sametime. The other two areas I think are really relevant to all of you is first on CSAT and NPS. We're at a 9.4 on our CSAT, an all-time high. We're at 73 for a Net Promoter Score. And just to give you a sense, we look and measure what other companies in our industry of how they're performing. Microsoft in their product line is in the 50s. We don't see very many products like ours in the 70s. And this is an area that you're going to see us continue to focus on and get the feedback on. But we're really happy with the work the team has been doing to drive that Net Promoter Score and ensure our customers are happy with the product. And then finally, we're actually targeting right now for this quarter to be about 150% of our new licenses. So, again, who would have thought a year ago that we would have been saying that, right? So we're incredibly excited about the momentum that we're having on the new license side for the Domino portfolio as well as connections. So we've obviously been busy, and you folks all are well aware of just the releases that we've had over the last 2.5 months. We committed to the 11.0.1 release for Domino and delivered that. We had our Connection 6.5 release, delivered that, and then we obviously had the introduction of Volt, which we're very proud of. And we already have over 30 customers, by the way, leveraging Volt today. So it gives you a sense of the momentum that we're getting on Volt now as well. And then finally, we're incredibly excited about the opportunity we have with HCL Sametime version 11.5, which is coming out really, really soon. And I can tell you that the team has been leveraging Sametime internally for months now. And really, we're excited about what we have an opportunity to do with this product with other aspects of our portfolio as well. All right, well, I want to talk a little bit and give you a little bit of a sense of where we're evolving and how we're going about that. And the way we like to represent it here is we want to talk in waves. And when we talk about these waves, they're really cumulative. So what does that mean? That means they build upon each other, right? And so it's not as if we're done with an investment in one wave. We will continue to invest in that wave as we progress, but we will adjust our investment is what this really represents. And as we noted, and I talked a bit about this at the beginning, and others between the team will talk quite a bit across their portfolio around, we're incredibly focused on our experience, right? The experience that we're providing holistically to our customers, from buying to licensing and pricing, to installing, to upgrading, to maintaining. So it's not just how the product works, it's the actual entire experience for our customers. You're also seeing heavy investments across the portfolio on containerization. We're huge believers in cloud native and the opportunity it gives our customers and partners to be much more cloud native. You're seeing investments around the design, the UX, and as well around licensing. And there's more to come around that, around how do we simplify our overall licensing model. Our second wave that we're very going to be focused on, and we are already targeting this, is driving architectural compatibility and focusing on the breadth of our portfolio and how do we take our other aspects of the portfolio and make improvements to the products. I'll give you a simple example of how could you actually, in Sametime, while I'm in a Sametime meeting, go from that Sametime meeting into a connections community to actually track all of the actions, the owners, the dates of what you had discussed in that meeting. There's lots of opportunity for us to look at product suites and driving that better together focus that we've talked about in the past. And then obviously there's more around openness. This is just one example, the OpenNTF community. And Jason will talk a bit more about some of the things that we're doing for other communities and where we believe open source is critical to our success. So then finally on the third one, obviously we believe, and you see it in the market, you see it what's happening with our competitors, intelligence is just becoming much more relevant. But our focus on intelligence is not just about checking the box and saying that we now have our AI, but it's really driving AI that's actionable and that provides informed decisions. And that can be done via MLP, NLP, or other areas. But in reality, it really does come down to that key piece for us around informed decisions and ensuring that it drives a value proposition. So finally, you can see here that these all overlay across the 4 themes that we've been focused on for the last 6 months, being experience-centric, driving software and focusing on how we are going to reimagine building software, ensuring that we're better together across our portfolio, and then obviously the art of the possible. What are we doing to be much more innovative? And finally, with that, I do want to talk a little bit about, again, being just much more focused on where we are today and what's coming. We've got so much happening right now, what's coming over the next couple of days and weeks. And obviously, the main thing for us right now is we need, and we have a lot of work still happening here, but you are going to have a new release of Sametime built on a new architecture that the team has had a significant investment on. And so we're heads down as an organization on getting that product out to our community and continuing to make investments there. The second area is we're continuing to invest. So I know that in the current scenario, many companies right now have really buckled down in certain aspects of the investments they're making. I want to tell you that we are still hiring. So we, Jason could probably cover this in his discussion, but we are at this point making significant investments into our portfolio from a staffing perspective. We're still investing in locations. So we have a brand new facility in Manila. When the shutdown opens up, we'll have people at that facility. We have another office, another floor in the Chelmsford site. If you've been to the Boston area for any of the factory tours or meetings, we've got another part of that building that we're actually building out right now. So we're balancing those investments. We're being very thoughtful about them, but we have not locked down our investments because we believe that right now it's important for us to continue to push forward, as we figure out what the new norm is. And then for me, the real target that I have and the leadership team, it really goes back to how are we going to continue to deliver software that exceeds all of your expectations. And frankly, we have a lot of fun doing it as well. And so that's going to be something that you're going to hear more and more from us is how we are making those adjustments, how are we making those investments to ensure that we're delivering products faster and that meet and exceed your expectations on a regular basis. So with that, I'll close here. I will tell you that again, it's an honor to come and speak to all of you. I can't thank you all enough for the investment of time and dedication for the products that we have, but OpenNTF as well. And I can tell you that for myself and the broader leadership team, we're excited about where we are today, But really, we believe that this is, again, just the beginning of an opportunity for us to make some investments that will really have an opportunity to shock the world on what we've been capable of doing. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to, I believe, Jason Howard. And
that is correct. I'll handle the switching.
Excellent.
Making Jason a presenter.
Fantastic. Thanks, Howard. I'm super excited, Richard, about this this factory tour, although I'm terrified at what you're going to make me dress up as.
I already have a plan on that. We're just not going to let everybody just...
Oh, dear Lord. Hang on a second. Let me just sit this in full screen here. And swap. And are we set?
You look
Everything
good.
good?
Thank you.
All right. Look at that. Technology at work. Hi, everyone. It's Jason. I hope everyone's having a good afternoon or good evening. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing around new technologies. Some of the exciting things that we've been researching, some of the exciting things, frankly, that we've learned over the last couple of months. But I think the first thing that I want to talk to all of you about is, oops, where is this? First thing I want to talk to you about is something Richard brought up, and I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this. I think for many of you, you know, I'm a big believer in open source and what open source technologies can do for all of us. And so one of the things I want to announce is we have completed within HCL creating an OSPO, an open source project office. And as Richard alluded to in his keynote, we're going to start contributing. You're going to see significant increase in our contributions, not just to OpenNTF, but across a spectrum of organizations, now that we have the capability of actually doing it, tracking it, and managing it. And I know for many of you, you're thinking, well, it's about time. But I have to tell you, and Richard brought this up, you know, we're only, if you look at Notes and Domino and such, we're only 2 years and change into this journey. And HCL in general is barely 4 years into a journey of becoming a software company. And obviously, having an open source project office is important. Richard tasked me to do this, and I started on this about 6 or 7 months ago. We've finally gotten to the point that everyone's agreed. And like Richard said, you're going to see a lot of individual contributions from HCL. You're going to see a lot of patches. You're going to see a lot more things like examples, help, tutorials, and such. But even more than that, you're going to see us basing large portions of our products on some fairly significant open source projects. So more to come on this. I'm really excited about how this can transform us. And this goes back to something Richard brought up in his keynote, which was we want to improve. We want to go faster. We believe we have just scratched the surface of the velocity that we can attain from the talented engineers and staff that we have. And by embracing open source and by going to the next level in this space, this is going to be a big part of us increasing that velocity and delivering more features, more functions, and more capabilities quicker into the hands of our partners and our customers. So stay tuned on this, but you're going to see a lot more in open source from HCL. Richard alluded to this as well. I think I started with this slide almost a year ago on event-driven architecture and where we were headed. As you can see in the picture, this is a very different way of looking at digital solutions and all of Richard's portfolio, whether it's Sametime or Domino or DX or Connections, etc. But what it really does is it ties into the things that you heard Richard say. We believe in cloud native. That is the future of where we want to be. And in order to do that, we need to be able to containerize. We need to break a lot of our products that are monolithic into smaller components. We need to have an orchestration layer and embrace management around Kubernetes in its various iterations. We need an API gateway. We need an event gateway that people can subscribe to. And we need to allow our customers, our partners, and ourselves to be on an even playing field to all participate and work in this architecture. I think Richard joked with all of you that we have 4 different logging systems, but I actually think it's 5, but it's obnoxious. And it's something that we all need to fix. We need to get to the point that there's one of everything. We don't duplicate, we all work together. And the APIs that work great on Connections will work on DX and will work on Sametime, all using this platform. We're actually building this. So this is not some aspirational set of ideas. This is something you're going to start seeing pieces of, what I believe later this September. You're going to start seeing some pieces of this. So very exciting. It's going to change the way that we are able to deliver solutions to you, but it's certainly going to make it far easier for all these products. And I'm staring at the survey of people who have Domino, have Sametime, and have connections. It's going to make all those products very easy for them to work together, for single sign-on to work with all of them together, to have one logging system, one metric system, one search system, one analytics engine, and one set of APIs that you can work across the entire portfolio. So pretty exciting stuff. So look at these smiling faces. What I'm going to show you today is something called Project Rosetta. It was led by Paul Withers. I think everybody knows Paul, who is outgoing board member on OpenNTF, phenomenal person, and he joined HCL. He has hit the ground running. He has 2 colleagues that have been working with him for, I guess, the last month and a half or so. Lauren, who comes with an iOS background, very brilliant engineer. And then Matt, and I assure you, even though you see Matt's photo, Richard is not hiring middle schoolers, I promise you. Matt's actually, all puns aside, Matt's just an amazingly talented J2EE full stack engineer. And Paul has taken their talents and created something that I'm going to walk you through around a problem we're trying to solve. Rich text. Rich text is a huge problem. Now, if you think about it, in many ways, Notes was the first at finding a way that I could compose rich text, edit it, manipulate it, and then distribute it. And that distribute part's the key thing, right? And it allowed things like being able to have these containers called fields and documents and NSF files. And that was great and wonderful. But in some cases, Notes is a bit cursed because it was first. So let's not start here. An area with Notes rich text with CD that we all know well. But let's start here. While Notes went off and effectively created the first kinds of implementations around manipulating rich text and then distributing it, there are many others in the industry that have gone a completely different direction. And this has become the de facto standard. It's taking things like text and images and rich text and metadata and copying these out to a variety of distribution mechanisms, whether it be the cloud or laptops or email or instant messaging or what have you, and allowing those to be edited in a variety of different clients using a specification or standard. And there you can see it here. This is a very different world from what we have today within the Notes client or within editing in Domino, right? And speaking of email, this whole world is very different, right? It wrappers text and images and files and metadata together. We send it, and then we create copies of these things, and we distribute them to various clients using MIME. And you can see that on the right. Here's another way of sort of looking at how content is created today, right? And here you can see a lot of zigzags. If you look at a Wikipedia page, if you look at various mashups, whether they're in markup, if you even go to places like GitHub and you see data in Markdown, right? What you're really getting is an amalgamation of content coming from a variety of different locations that then brought together on the screen for users to consume. Again, this is a very different model from what we have in Notes rich text fields today, which doesn't really have this kind of paradigm. So we thought for a second, well, what if we did have that paradigm? What if we change the way that Domino manipulates and works with rich text and the way it distributes it using a project called Keep, which I think many of you are familiar with, which gives us a whole new set of APIs on top of Domino? What if we were able to work with Markdown, work with a classic rich text editor like Tiny, work inside the Notes client, and be able to have this referential information, be able to take rich text and be able to manipulate it using different specs and standards? And what would that really look like? So let's do this. Let's start on an iPad. This is an actual iPad app that was built by Lauren, and here you can see these are Notes documents. But this is Tiny MCE running on an iPad, native application, and we could create it and make it Markdown compatible. And you can see, with the OpenNTF June webinar, what's new at HCL, we can put in some data and we can make some changes to it. So we can bold this and we can bullet that, and we can go ahead and change this. And for those of you who know Notes very well, manipulating and working with anchor tags is a little frightening sometimes. I believe Paul's reference to this is Franken markup when you go and serve this. So it's a pretty challenging thing. But here you can see we're making some changes to this document. We're highlighting things. We're going in and bolding things, we're underlining things, etc. And this is all sort of standard things that you would do. And we can go back and we can save this document, we can put it in here. And that's great. Now, what if we look at this same document that, again, is stored in Domino in a progressive web app? Again, using Project Keep, we're going to go in and access this rich text content. Again, this is the same view, right? And here you can see the edits that we made are here. But now we can actually do some other things with it. So we can go in and we can bold this. We can go in and we can make some changes. We can save it. And if you notice, by the way, the markup actually looks relatively good, but oh my, now we can look at this in Markdown. And watch, we can actually go in and cut and paste this and bracketize this. And there you can see the brackets and add that anchor reference in Markdown. And there it is, being displayed in a PWA app. Again, this is notes content, Domino content, but we are manipulating it using Markdown. Pretty interesting, right? What if we did this on Nomad? Well, okay, well, what if we did this on Nomad? So let's go ahead, here we are in Nomad. Let's go ahead and open up Project Rosetta's NSF file. And here we go, let's go in and we can look at the exact same document again inside Nomad. There you can see the changes we made, including if you look at the bottom, we made a change in Markdown. And now it's displaying that change in notes rich text data. Or here you can see it in actual HTML markup. And then we can see it again in Markdown. Pretty interesting, right? We've gone from being able to use notes rich text, standard HTML markup, and Markdown, and go back and forth between them all. Well, let's look through it again. Here's the notes client. And again, here's the markup. And you can see it is not Franken markup. All apologies to Paul and his comment. But we can also look at it as traditional notes rich text. And here you can see it. Pretty exciting, right? Very different way of working with rich text than we have today. So you may ask me, why are we so focused on this? Yes, rich text has been a challenge in Domino for a long time. But is that the most important thing that we need to be working on? And I think it's a fair question to ask. But I will tell you, there is a very valid reason we're trying to solve this problem of portability of rich text within Domino applications, including perhaps one of the most important Domino applications, email. Interoperability between the Notes client's email, sending email from Verse, going into Outlook, going into Gmail, or going into simple, normal IMAP-based mail servers and mail clients is painful. It doesn't work well. Going back and forth creates bigger and bigger problems. And while we've tried to solve this problem over the course of the last 20, 25 years with very fancy MIME conversion engines, we really haven't solved it. What we'd like to do is to solve it so that it doesn't matter what the content's created as, and it doesn't matter what client is created on. It looks the same regardless of where it goes. And so with that, we're working on something that I'm about to show you. Now, I want to give a couple caveats. First of all, I'm going to show you an Outlook client. There are no plugins. There are no tricks. There's no changes. There's nothing special about that Outlook client. And there's no Exchange server. There's no Office 365. The mail backend for this is Domino. So let me show you. One of the interesting things that Exchange allows with Outlook is this concept of discovery. So if you put in your email address into Outlook and you tell it, hey, I have an Exchange server, it will literally go find that Exchange server. You don't need to know as an end user what your mail server is or where it is, or if you've got a cluster partner and set up location documents. You don't have to do any of those things. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up 2 users. Again, there is no Exchange server here. And this is normal Outlook. There are no plugins. Nothing is installed on Outlook. It is just Outlook. Here we go. 2 users set up, automatically discovered, and here they are. Well, you know what? Why don't we send an email between one of these accounts and another? And let's go ahead and sit it in here and let's send some rich content with it. Now, ordinarily, the way that Exchange works with this is they actually have files stored on the file system. But there is no Exchange server here. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We'll send the email and look at that. It looks exactly like what we sent, including the attachment. Let's go ahead and reply to it. Here you go. Let's shove a picture in, right? It's always exciting, and it's always a challenge to have some pictures inside things with rich text. And here we go and send it. Here you see it. Look, it shows up in the other user's inbox. We can even reply to reply. And here we go. We can just see the conversation as it goes. All of this working with clean, rich text, Domino only, with Outlook, no plugins. And if you notice the text from place to place that we went, the rich text, even though I could open this exact same mail file in a notes client, it would look exactly like what you're seeing it in Outlook. So with that, I thank everyone very much. A lot of exciting things going on in HCL Digital Solutions, and I'm sure there'll be more to come for us to share to you in the end of the summer. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jason. That was really exciting. I love that rich text. That's always been the bane of our existence as Notes developers and Notes and Domino developers. So speaking of Notes and Domino and Vault, I'm going to turn things over to Andrew.
Thanks, Howard, and thank you to everyone that's tuned in. This is Andrew Manby here, and I want to thank Richard and Jason for giving us a perfect setup to this presentation. And I think some of the stuff you've just seen is really exciting. So let's dive into the roadmap here. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat. So where are we on our sort of roadmap journey? I sort of sit back and I think about it, and we've come a long way, with Domino from release 9. Richard mentioned that, V11 is our safe harbor release, and we've seen a tremendous number of downloads, adoption of that specific release. And I think it's really a reflection upon, the innovation, from the development teams. I think it's a reflection on the long-term commitment of HCL, the willingness to be more open and do things differently. And I think you've seen a lot of that from, the narrative here from Jason, just to sort of think differently. And then, all of this happens because the quality is there and the innovation and the commitment. And, as you hear from Richard, we're transparent. We let you know what's sort of going on. And I'm really excited to make sure that the V12 will be coming in the first half of next year. So let me get into some pieces which are a little bit more sort of closer to time horizons, closer than that. So we released Vault on April 16th of this year. We've had a sandbox environment that was launched about 2 weeks ago. Richard said we've had 30 plus sales already with the product. We've got over 350 people using the sandbox today. So it's really captured people's imaginations. This product, Vault, is on a iterative, agile schedule, the same with many of our other products. And the next iteration, which is actually coming in the next quarter, really gives us some important pieces to the puzzle. It really gives us direct access from within Vault to Domino data. It gives you access, it gives you the capability to do anonymous user support that wasn't there in the first release. We're also going to be doing dynamic role assignments, and we're going to allow you to be able to access those Domino agents. Now, there's one thing on this list that we didn't include that was originally scheduled, but the team pulled it in earlier, is you can get hold of Vault now as a Docker image as well. So if you like building Docker images and deploying them, now you can take the Domino Docker image, you can take the Vault image, put those two together, and away you go. That's pretty exciting. So another area of innovation, and Jason mentioned the PWAs, and he showed you a demo with it. Progressive web applications for the desktop is really the direction that many applications are actually going. Some of that was paved by the world of Electron, but progressive web apps, I believe, is a much more open approach to doing that. Progressive web apps, which are essentially web apps optimized for a particular browser combination, in this case, Chromium, and it could be Firefox, it could be Edge, it could be Chrome, or one of the browsers built on that. It gives you the possibilities you can see here. What you're seeing is the Notes client as a progressive web application. We call it Nomad Web. And this is something that we're very excited about because, this will give you the ability to run those applications you have unchanged. So they will look as beauteous as they are today in this environment. It does mean that you have access to your contacts and to your mail, and it will always be updated. There's nothing to install. There's no ICAA, there's no plugins, there's no notes client. It has the same security model. It has the same offline capabilities. But as you can see here, you can just create a link, a doc link here in your doc. This is for a lot of people who are reliant upon using Citrix or really concerned about deployment of the notes client. This is a game changer. This is really a game changer. So it's part of the family, and you've really known us for Nomad, really delivering those Android and iOS clients for phone and also for tablet. But soon we'll be getting people to download and try the Nomad Web Beta. So any of these browsers, as you can see here, running on these platforms, will be able to use it. So if you haven't signed up already for the Nomad Beta, I suggest you do that soon. So expect to see a communication from us in the coming month or so, inviting you to go and give it a try. Now, while we're on the topic of progressive web apps, with Verse, there's going to be a major new release. It's going to be Verse 2.0. It's going to be a progressive web app. So whether you're running on Mac or on a PC, you'll be able to take that browser app, take it out of your regular browser as a tab and create it as a link. And you can use Mail as a separate app. You can use Calendar as a separate app. I mean, I've been using it for a number of months, and I never have to use the web browser. It's tremendous. The march of adding additional capabilities to it continues. We're bringing mail rules, which is something that a lot of iNotes customers want us to do. We're improving the searching. And also, I don't know about you, but I've been using the Verse web capability on my mobile phone and trying that out at the same time as a Verse mobile client. And I'm enjoying that. And I suggest if you get an opportunity to do that too. So let me talk a little more about V12, because I'm sure people are curious about it. So first half of next year, there are three major themes. There's business workflow for everyone, which is really the encapsulation of what we do in app dev. And there's still more to come, but I'll give you a glimpse in that today. Your business, your data, your cloud, which I'll delve into. And then lastly, really talking about, how do we improve those app experiences? So let me start with that one first. So our journey on the desktop looks something like this. So I've already mentioned Verse 2.0, which is going to be a desktop PWA, which is actually going to be shipping soon. And that's going to give you, more, design-led, cool way to access your Domino mail. I mentioned that we're going to be having a beta, a closed beta, and then a full beta for Nomad Web soon for that particular offering, and that's going to be very exciting. And lastly, Ginni's probably going to tell you a little bit more about it, but certainly for chat, expect to see a PWA in the future after we ship the 11.5 release. Our goal ultimately is to create a single integrated role-specific or outcome-specific user experience that contextually combines these pieces together in the V13 timeframe. Yes, folks, we're already thinking about V13 and what we need to do from a desktop perspective. We know it's going to be lightweight. We know it's going to be extensible using HTML and JavaScript because we're using PWAs. It's going to look contemporary, and it's going to work on Windows, Mac, and also Linux as well. The second topic is really about, Domino Cloud Native. And this is a conversation, and we're working very closely with Jason's team on specific initiatives between development, product management, and the innovation labs. So we see our future in these container platforms, whether you're running Kubernetes or OpenShift. And we want to make sure that we are fully optimized for those environments. So if you want to run it on-prem, in your data center, or run in a private cloud, you can. Now, we're still going to support Linux platforms or all of the other platforms we support today, but increasingly we're seeing more demand for these types of deployments. And there's some other things that go with that as well. You know, how you configure the instance and how do you take care of some of those backups and security things associated with that. So let me tell you about 3 things which are going to be part eventually. By the time we get to V12, we would have done a number of continuous betas. So soon we're going to be drop shipping a continuous beta, the first continuous beta release for V12. And in that first drop, will contain a piece of functionality that we want the community to test. So it will be encapsulated in a Docker container. We'll make it available in the forum to you. Well, that will be valid for 30 or 45 days. And then after that time, we'll give you another drop. And if, you know, the idea is that we get your feedback, we make some changes, we add it to the next drop, and then you get to experience it. The third drop may include more of functionality from the first drop. It may include brand new functionality. Our idea here is to go from just having a 1 beta period or a couple of beta waves towards the end game of our development cycle to making it an integral part. So you're actually right there almost with us with the playbacks as we develop the functionality. You can try it out, give us our feedback immediately, and the development team and product management and Jason's team are actually listening. So the 3 areas I'm willing to talk about today are TOTP, two-factor authentication. So you can use for both our NRPC and our web-based clients. So you can use a second factor authentication with Google Authenticator or Authy or other tools like that. We're also going to be providing integration in the box with Let's Encrypt, so you can get hold of those SSL and TSL certificates much more easily and streamline that process. And the last one I'm particularly excited about, because every customer I talk to here is probably moving on to using vendors such as Cohesity, Rubrik, and Veeam for their backups. And what we've decided is the best thing to do is to provide a new backup mechanism, make it pre-installed with Domino, and essentially allow you to do backups like we have with support with Deos, give you an extra tier so you can do a backup and then allow the backup storage solution to then pick up the backup you've created, whether it's a snapshot or a full backup. So we really want to deliver a tool and a capability that will work for all of the backup tools, whether you've got some more of the traditional type of solutions or you've got more of the cloud-based solutions. And for me, this is one thing that we hear a lot from our customers. And in the last area that I wanted to chat on about in the last 2 minutes here is you've seen a glimpse of what we can do with Vault. And that future is very exciting. Gauging by the feedback we've received, the number of people that participated in every single webinar. We've had brand new logoed customers buy products from us directly on the back of COVID and actually trying to solve problems. And we want to further invest in that. By the way, we're still going to continue to invest in DQL and Lotus Script extensions and still work on Designer for what we need to do around Nomad. But we fundamentally want to do 3 things with Vault. We are going to add a separate workflow canvas to extend the stage capability we have today to make it more akin to what you see with Nintex K2 and Power Apps. We're going to add more support for mobile client experiences, so you can take advantage of the OCR reader, barcode reader, the GPS and the camera within your Vault apps. And we really want to enshrine the idea that integration is built in. So I'm not talking about just Domino. I'm talking about extending to a whole raft of different applications, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud. So we really want to supersize everything we do in that realm to make it really plug and play for someone who doesn't understand what the complexity of a backend REST API or a service request looks like. We can just connect it to a connective infrastructure and just make it work. So for me, all of these three things are going to expand the use cases and going to increase the velocity at which people build workflow-rich applications lightning fast. So for me, V12 and some of the direction stuff you saw from Jason, the future is very bright around Domino and what we're doing around app dev. It's also bright around what we're doing for mail. So stay tuned for more information, and I would love to look at your questions later on in the session. So Howard, I think that's it. Over to you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Andrew. A lot of exciting stuff there. We definitely have some questions that people are already putting in. So next up, we're going to hear about Sametime from Ginni. Let me make you a presenter. And Ginni, you should be all set.
Thanks, Howard. Give me a second here. Let's see. And I'm going to put it in present mode. You see everybody sees my screen? Cool.
That worked out great.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ginni Saini, and I'm the product manager for HCL Sametime. I'm here to talk about all great things for Sametime, especially what you're here for, right? Let's talk about everything that's coming out. So with that, now, before I start talking about Sametime, I wanted to kind of, show you what we have learned, obviously in times like today, as we were actively building this meetings and chat solution, right, for our customers. We started building, and in the middle of all that, all this whole pandemic happened, right? So we kind of went back and started thinking about, how does this change, based on where we are today? What's the difference that this makes in terms of what we are building for our customers, right? When it comes to your virtual meetings, the chat, the whole collaboration that every user needs, right? Working remotely. So the few things, that I've listed here as we were brainstorming all that in the midst of our development, data privacy, obviously, right? That's a big one we've all seen, with all other solutions out there that kind of came into limelight, right? That's very important for our customers. Bandwidth issues. We start seeing where, you have users who are using meetings, using chat, and they have different bandwidths. There are some users with very low bandwidth versus some that have great bandwidth. We obviously got to manage all those users. Other things we learned, a lot of meetings, the video meetings that people have these days, we're not talking, 100 people in a meeting, right? As your remote work keeps on going, with everybody working from home, everybody's wanting to talk to the team where you want to keep the conversation interactive, right? So a lot of meetings are, between 5 to 20 users average. The audio quality issues, right? We started seeing as everybody gets on the meetings on the computer all day long, we start seeing various quality issues and concerns that everybody sees. We also looked at, where users are spending a lot of time now that everybody is on every meeting, online meeting. There's a lot of minutes wasted, right? Where somebody's waiting for a meeting to start, the moderator isn't there. Others, you just use it for screen sharing, perhaps. That's the main use case. And in terms of directories, right, when we talk about security, in terms of our meetings and chat platform, you want to make sure, even though you do want your guests, for example, to join your meetings, you want to keep everything secure in terms of what access can guests have versus the authenticated users. So here are some thoughts that I wanted to share with everybody here, right? As we kind of switched a little bit in terms of when we were building, how do we change based on where the workforce is today? Now let's start talking about Sametime, right? So again, what we are building with Sametime is, number one, with our upcoming release, video meetings, right? Which everybody needs, everybody wants these days. We also looked at, where even though you do have meetings that are between 5 to 20 users, for example, there is still a need for event-based solution, right? Where, all the events like this one right now we're in are happening virtually. we do wanted to provide some capability where you can at least broadcast your event, right? So for example, we may have 10 people presenting, just like this event here in the meeting room. However, you might have thousands of users who need to listen in, right? So we wanted to provide some kind of broadcast capability. So that's one thing we are going to have with our upcoming release. We wanted to make sure there is a team collaboration piece. As we look into the same time, historically as well, right? We have always had where we want to provide our users a chat as well as meetings experience and build, right? So where we are taking that with 11.5 is even more seamless chat versus meetings experience, right? You can start chat from a meeting, you can start meeting from a chat, and everything kind of gets tied down together, and you can follow on various action items based on what comes out of meetings and chat. So that's another kind of area we are focusing on for 11.5, where we want to provide a full-fledged team collaboration experience. And obviously remote working, right? Everybody's working from home. Nobody wants to sit down on their desk all day long. We definitely need mobile access as well, right? So you're gonna see our mobile apps, unlike our past releases where we had a chat app versus a meetings app, with our Sametime V9 and V10 releases. With V11.5, we're gonna have one app. That's the one you use for both chat and meetings. And we're gonna provide the same experience using app just as you have in your web client. So again, video meetings, chat, and the full-fledged team collaboration experience is what we are working on providing our users with our upcoming 11.5 release. Let me talk a little bit about meetings, right? What's coming out with 11.5. Again, we wanted to make it, if you've used the old releases of Sametime, we had chat, we had meetings, but what we have done with 11.5 is make it one single offering, which has chat and meetings in it. And it's super fast using the WebRTC technology compared to our older releases, right? It's using WebRTC, it's a single click, you get right into the meeting along with audio and video. And obviously there is screen sharing. We don't have any plugins. If you've used Sametime 9 and previous releases, there used to be a plugin that needs to be downloaded when you had to do audio video, and that was dependent on various browser versions, OS versions, none of that. It's gonna be a single click and you are in the meeting talking with one click. So that's pretty exciting. The other piece is obviously our admin piece, right? This is an on-prem product. You can deploy on-prem, you can deploy in private cloud, and we want to make it as simple as possible for our administrators. It's going to be a single server that you can deploy in minutes, one chat server and one meeting server, and it's going to give you the best functional experience as compared to our Sametime 9 releases that was took a days pretty much to install if you wanted the full-fledged clustering in there. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides too. This is the broadcast capability, right, we were talking about. So again, in times like today when every event is virtual right now, and probably for the foreseeable future as well, right, what we wanted to provide was some kind of broadcast capability, and you can have thousands and thousands of users listening in as the presenters are presenting. So with 11.5, you're going to have capability to live stream your meeting that will live stream your screen share, your audio, and your video from within that meeting. People can watch and listen, and this is going to be via public or private YouTube channels. And that functionality will be inbuilt out of the box in our 11.5 release. So that's pretty exciting feature there. Team collaboration. So, along with meetings, I know everybody's focused on meetings at this point because that's the need of the hour. But we are also providing with 11.5 a full-fledged seamless team collaboration experience, right? So with that, what we have done is we have built our web client from scratch. If any of you have already deployed 11.01 FP1 client from us, You've already seen a new React-based web client. I put some screenshots here as well. It's really a very lightweight React-based native client. It's built from scratch. It's got a very clean user experience. We still have our rich clients in case of somebody uses, wants to use Notes Embedded client or a standalone client for Sametime. Those will still be there, but we have also now developed this new web client as well. It's very simple to configure. As you can see, it's got just what you need. You can configure your meeting providers as well. We are going to support both external providers as well as our own Sametime 11.5 meetings. And we're gonna offer from out of the box is you will have a default meeting room provisioned for every user in your organization, and that's what they'll see as their default meeting room in their web client on the left that you see here. But we will also leave in the capability where if somebody wants to add some third-party conferencing link in there, that can be done as well. This is our mobile client, and by the way, this is the V11 app is already out on app stores. With 11.5, it'll be the same app, but you're gonna see the meetings functionality inbuilt as well. So we're gonna refresh that app to upgrade it to 11.5 on app stores with our 11.5 release. It's, again, if you have already seen our chat app, there are a lot of other features being added, and the UI is being refreshed as well. It's got a brand new user interface. We have persistent chat already available via mobile as well, and we're going to take that to the meetings piece as well. And what that means is where if you are in a meeting and you are chatting in the meeting, that chat, once the meeting ends, will be saved and will show up automatically either on your mobile client if you're logged into mobile client or on your web and rich clients. So all that chat will come back, and then think about everything that happened in the chat. All the users that were in the meeting are added to that group chat and can follow on any action items from there on, even after the meeting ends. So that's going to be a pretty powerful feature for us for meetings and chat collaboration. It's got multi-device support. Obviously, you can log into your mobile client, you can log into your web client all concurrently, and all your chat history and everything stays with you. We will also have dial-out telephony support, although these days, we're not seeing people on the road, but still, if somebody needs to dial out, we are going to have that capability. We're going to provide documentation around it where you can have your external SIP provider and you can configure your meetings to talk to that SIP provider, and then you can dial any phone out of that meeting room and can have somebody who's on the phone listening into your meeting. So that functionality will come with 11.5 as well. In terms of deployment, so again, the Sametime 11.5 deployment, we are shooting towards a very, very fast and easy deployment. If you compare to Sametime 9, this is going to be hours. It's not going to be days, as we have learned from all our admins that are using Sametime 9 solution today. Meeting server, which is a brand new server built from scratch for 11.5, it literally takes minutes. It's going to be Docker image that literally takes minutes to deploy. Now the chat piece, it's again, Domino based. It has community server, proxy server, MongoDB install, all that. I put some numbers in here based on our testing, what we have done so far, the numbers I got from our testing team. It's really, we're talking a couple of hours. It is not going to be where you spend days installing this thing. It's literally a supersonic speed compared to when we compare it to Sametime 9. So that's a really exciting stuff for our admins. This is a chart. I wanted to show this how we are going to the market, right? In terms of our packaging. What we're going to offer for Sametime 11.5 is it's going to be one offering. It's going to have chat and meetings. So that's the orange box on the right hand side you see up there. It's going to have full chat and meetings. Obviously, we're going to do an upsell for our entitled chat customers and Notes Domino customers that already have Sametime limited use entitlement. We are going to entitle it to our existing Sametime customers who are using either Communicate, Conference, or Complete licenses for Sametime. And we're going to have the telephony and compliance fees, which I'll talk about in a minute here for roadmap. That's coming in our V12 version. On the left is, we're not going to change anything for our, in terms of entitlements as it goes for our Notes Domino customers. They'll still be entitled to the limited chat functionality for 11.5, but they're not going to get meetings or any other premier chat functions with that entitlement. This slide was to kind of take you through, what is our thinking, what is our goals when we are building this whole chat and meeting solution for today's world, right? Obviously, the first thing is that we are, as you heard from Richard, heard from Andrew and Jason as well, we are innovating, as an HCL product here. We are doing a lot of things, from ground up using the latest technologies. It comes from a very proven expertise of my development team, support team, and talking about proven expertise. I don't know if any of you here remember Microsoft Net Meeting. That was a VoIP client years ago in 90s. We still have our senior developers, some of them who actually helped with that technology. They developed that technology that then Microsoft acquired at that point. So this is really proven expertise, years of experience when it comes to building the product. We are reinventing our meetings and chat, obviously using the latest technology, giving you the best and the fast that's out there. Again, talking about, just thinking about today's remote work, audio and video is #1 feature. Everybody wants it to just work, right? So we are focusing specifically on that, where we work with various bandwidths. It adjusts automatically based on the bandwidth of a user. It can save bandwidth by managing the quality of your video if some user has, less bandwidth versus the other. And the meeting solution is going to be massively scalable. When it comes to, when you deploy it in a Kubernetes cluster, you can just go way beyond, thousands and thousands of users in terms of auto scaling with our meeting solution. The privacy and security concerns, obviously, this is an on-prem solution where you can deploy it on your own hardware, or you can also deploy in a private cloud. But all the data obviously stays with you, right? There is no question of data leaving your private cloud, or data leaving your on-prem hardware. Nobody's harvesting your data, it stays with you. And saves money, right? Obviously, it's going to be very reduced expense if you compare it to any third-party meetings and chat solutions you may be using out there. This shows you the preview. So we did go live with our Sametime 11.5 preview inside within HCL. A lot of people are using it. I've been on various meetings with various teams, and everybody's excited about how the Sametime meetings is going. The external preview, we did go live on May 5th. We have almost 600 registrations. I checked this morning. We have registrations coming every day for that. I did put a sign up link here too, in case you haven't checked it out. I would encourage you to do so using that link. That's the slide for our Sametime roadmap. So, just to reiterate, for our V11, 11.5 release, actually that's coming out soon, we're gonna focus on things that are easy to use in meetings, right? That's the need of the hour again. So we want to make sure we give you the best in terms of our meetings and chat capabilities. We give you mobile access and easy to deploy, lower TCO, right? So that's our goal for 11. Now with 12, as Andrew was showing on the slide that you saw too, right? Our journey, where we are going. We are taking this even further. Things like you heard Andrew talk about PWAs. I actually have that in V12 here, but we are planning to release an Electron client, for example, for meetings. Right now it's browser-based, but we will also release an Electron client before V12 is our goal, sometime later this year, as well as PWAs for our web chat. And among other things, we are also going to do some key partnership with our telephony dial-in and dial-out support. You'll see that in V12 as well for our meetings. Our app devs, SDKs, I know we have a great ecosystem of our partners who are looking for the new, refreshed SDKs, the APIs for Sametime, so they can build it in their own tools. That will be coming in V12 as well, and among other things you see here on this slide. And talking about V12, I know again you heard from Andrew about V13. We're going to take it even further in terms of adding third-party integrations, working together with other third-party file shares in our secure chat extensions and certifications that will be coming in V12 plus, which is the V13 piece that you heard from Andrew. And that's it. That's the end of my slides. Howard, back to you.
Oh, thanks, Ginni. Okay, great. A lot of exciting stuff there as well. I'm going to turn things over to Adam to talk about connections. Let me make you the presenter. Hold on, Adam. Okay, you should have the presentation rights now.
Very good. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here today. So I'm going to talk about connections and our roadmap and where we're going with it, some of the things we've done recently and some of the things that are coming up later this year. So first, I want to start by recognizing where we are today. It's a very unique time that is also influencing where we're putting our focus for connections. We're really seeing a need now more than ever to make sure that companies are able to accommodate remote workers, to complement the tools they may have already, like Sametime that you just heard about, with the solutions that can help them come together around employee engagement and managing teams, managing projects, making sure everyone is staying on the same page, making sure that, especially for companies that are working remote for the first time, they're able to maintain that sense of culture, that they're able to get in touch with the people they need when they need to, that information can be shared and stored centrally in a way so that everyone is working with the current information, that it's not just coordinating internally with your employees, but you have a way of coordinating across your supply chain and handling all the disruptions that might have come with that. Or as you're starting to return to an office situation and kind of getting used to the new normal, that you've got a way of bridging that divide between the people that are continuing to work remote and those that are in the office. Connections is not just something that our customers are using internally. A lot of them are using it externally as well for coordinating with outside constituents, whether it's customers directly or supply chains. I want to start with a quick example that I think really speaks to that, and also the progress that Connections has seen in recent times. So the Swiss Red Cross of Zurich is a local organization focused on supporting the local community. They, with our partner Bellsoft, rolled out Connections as a way of coordinating with their volunteers. So they're a very heavily volunteer-driven organization, and they do all of their activities and coordination through Connections. So they have different volunteer groups that are self-formed or need to be organized. They have events that are scheduled, training that's needed for their volunteers. All of this is done through Connections, and it was largely done completely self-service. They put the environment up, they created IDs for their employees and for their volunteers, and they just went off and started using it. You can see the quote there: "It was immediately comprehensible and operable for an external user." Those teams were able to use it themselves without hand-holding, without much training at all, setting up their communities, setting up volunteer events, organizing volunteers, making sure they all had the information they needed, answering questions when things came up. And I think it really speaks to where our focus has been in our recent releases, which is around adoption and usability. So with that, let's shift over to talk about some of the things that have come out in those recent releases. So Connections 6.5 was released at the end of last year, and there were several new pieces included that really focused on keeping it simple and making it consumable for the end users. And so the first piece there is around getting new users up to speed quickly. And that's with the touchpoint capability that really walks through as a wizard, getting new users up and running on Connections. It lets you set up your profile, upload a picture, You can put in topics that you're interested in, and based on that, it will prompt network contacts that you should connect with, as well as communities that may be of interest to you. These are things that can be built off each other iteratively as you go. So based on my network and my contacts, it'll suggest communities to me. But these are also things that can be pre-populated. So if I'm in a sales role, it may automatically suggest a sales community or a sales enablement community for me to follow. Or you could have a local community based on my location pre-populated for that user. And the end result is that when I first come into Connections, I now have a network of contacts that I can go and reach out to and start connecting with. I've got communities that I belong to. And when I go to my activity feed, my Orient Me page, it's already filled in with everything that's going on inside my network and my communities and related to my interests. So I'm not starting with a blank slate that I have to go figure out how to use and fill in, but I'm starting with a fully functional enterprise network and collaborative tool to use. We took steps to make it easier to bring external people in to collaborate with. So the invite tool lets any user go out and add someone to their Connections environment. They don't have to go to an admin anymore. It'll handle the password for them, invite them in. You can customize the email that goes out to them so they feel welcome and it's personalized to your business. And just get them set up and running in Connections instantly. Sidebar is another tool focused on making Connections pervasive and always having it available to you. So this is a couple lines of code that you can embed in your intranet or portal or any website that you have access to. It could be your Domino applications, your Volt applications. And it has Connections capabilities that just slide out from the side of your browser. And you can get at your contacts, your bookmarks, your communities, post or read status updates, see your notifications. So it's really never more than a click away wherever you are. And then the last piece we introduced with Connections 6.5 is Activities Plus by Kudos. So the Activities capability in Connections has been there from the start and is a very powerful capability, but never really quite lived up to its potential. And a lot of that was because of the user interface and the usability of it. And so Activities Plus is a capability available that's available to you, no additional charge. You're entitled to it as part of your Connections entitlement. And it brings a completely new UI to Activities. It makes it very easy to see your to-dos, to organize them, to assign them to people, to filter based on when they're due or who it's assigned to. If you haven't seen that, I definitely encourage you to check it out because it really is a game changer when it comes to that kind of task and project management inside Connections. So that's Connections 6.5. Earlier this year, we introduced Connections 6.5 CR1. And this starts to get into that theme of better together that you'll hear about in a minute when I talk about where we're going with Connections 7. So Connections 6.5 CR1 brings mail and calendar integration into your Connections navigation bar. So you can always have immediate access to read your email, compose email, reply. The same for your calendar. This connects into your Domino mail. If you happen to be using Exchange or Office 365 for mail, it will connect into that as well. Some other improvements come around continuing some of the things we improved on with 6 and 6.5. For example, transfer file ownership. You can now do that as an end user through a UI in bulk. So I can multi-select files and transfer them to a new owner if I'm going to be leaving the organization or moving to a new job and someone else is taking over my former role. We've continued to roll out updates to the mobile client. So for example, managing your personal files there, file transfer ownership, updating it to the new look and feel of Connections. There are a lot of other enhancements that came over the past year on mobile that really bring it into parity with the browser experience. We know a lot of executive teams are now primarily working off of tablets, for example. And so it really gives you the full featured experience that is not just gets you all the capabilities of Connections, but is really designed for that form factor. We completed the translation into the tier 1, 2, and 3 languages, so we're at parity to where we were at IBM. And we made upgrades to some of the foundational capabilities like Kubernetes, Elasticsearch, and Node.js. So that's what we've been working on so far from a product standpoint. Also want to highlight what we've been doing to make sure that we're sharing information with all of you. So there's a lot that we've been doing to post updates to social media, of course, but I think more importantly, we've been working to help on the adoption front by posting videos out on YouTube that highlight how to use the new features. So these are short videos. They might be 3 minutes, 5, 6 minutes. They just walk through how to use OrientMe, how to use the new files capabilities and the new look and feel. What's new with communities and the community catalog. There are also a video series about deploying Customizer Lite, for example, and some of the new capabilities that are based on Docker. So there's a lot out there that you can use if you're an administrator, but also that you can make available to your end users to learn how to use these new capabilities themselves. We've also been updating our documentation. So for example, we have customers that are upgrading from fairly old versions of connections to moving up to 6.5. You know, it's always great to see people who are coming up to the latest versions. And so there are guidebooks on and playlists, basically how to walk through upgrading from even back to version 4.5 or 5.0, getting up to connection 6.5. And we're also making sure on our blogs to share the latest with you as we come out with new capabilities. So now let's look at where we're going. Connections V7 is due out at the end of this year. And again, the main focus here is on better together. And a key piece of that is focusing on integrations. So we know that having an integrated environment helps you minimize disruption as you're switching back and forth between your all the various applications you're using. And you know, we took the first step of that with the mail integration into connections, for example. But we also really want to focus on breaking down the silos that might exist today between folks that might be using Teams or SharePoint or other applications to get your job done with where you're collaborating in connections. When you bring people together to get that work done. And an important piece of that, I think, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This really spells out why this is so important and why we're focusing on things like integration. You know, we found, and we're not alone in this, that a complete collaboration environment doesn't just require kind of the tools for close interaction. So if you look at that ring on the left, where you have things like one-on-one messaging or workstream collaboration, web conference, and screen sharing, all of that is really important. It's really essential to how we all work and get our job done, especially today when so many people are working remote. But to really have a successful digital workplace, you need to move beyond that into the next rings as well. So open collaboration with things like knowledge repositories for sharing reusable content and making them available to people so you can find something that you know that might have been from a conversation more than just a couple days ago. Setting up communities for teams or for the broader organization. Expertise location, so you can find the information you're looking for quickly and easily. And again, especially in an environment today where there's a lot of disruption going on, where the person I might have known that has the answer might not be available, or I might not know how to reach them, or I can't just count on running into someone in the hallway or knocking on their door to find an answer. Having that, being able to find that expertise and being able to save and capture that knowledge for later retrieval is really essential. And that's where Connections really excels. And why we're looking to integrate back with solutions like Sametime, like we have for a long time, or integrating with solutions like Teams, a lot of people are using now, or SharePoint. You know, all of that is really a key part of our strategy. And so when you look at the key themes for Connections V7, it will continue to be that open platform to securely integrate the applications that you're using and provide for that seamless digital workspace. And the key things we're concentrating on here, one is around that integration, and the second is offering tailored experiences that really line up and match to your specific need. So let's see how these look in practice. So first off, we've heard from a lot of our current customers and a lot of companies we speak to that integration with Teams is really important. They're using Teams as as a platform of choice or a requirement for that kind of workstream collaboration, but they still want to be able to get at the content that is stored in connections, whether that's files, whether that's wikis. So being able to surface things like wikis, blogs, and files and other community assets directly inside of Teams is something that we'll be bringing forward. And so we'll look just like another tab in the header for Teams like you have today, except it will bring in and tie back to the content that you have in connections, as well as allowing you to quickly jump over to the full connections experience if that is something that is necessary. And this really kind of, again, brings together these worlds. So I know where my content is connections is my standard for how we collaborate and share material, but you can get at it while you're having your conversations in Teams. On the tailored experience front, this is really driven by two pieces. One is delivering a first-class user experience that is easy to use and can be set up for the specific purpose that you need. And one of the things we know, and then we found, and I think all of you have probably found as well, is that business problems repeat themselves. And so being able to set up an environment, whether it's something for knowledge sharing or broader communication and engagement across the enterprise, or large team projects or small team collaboration, being able to leverage best practices, being able to use templates for those repeatable elements and bring together just the right components that you need for that specific purpose is really essential. And so that's where we're focusing with this concept of a tailored experience. And so what you see here is the first step when I go to create a community, providing a really easy to understand, elegant experience for those community managers to go through, set up your community, put in just the details you need, set the privacy and control who has access to this community. And then from there, move to choose a template that we'll provide or that we're working with our business partners to provide that are really specific to the needs that you have, so that you can drive the outcomes you're working on, be efficient as possible, and really maximize your return on your investment with connections and in that project. So this might be a template around business communications or a large or small project. It might be setting up a knowledge base. You'll be able to preview what the community will look like with that template and then go through and set it up from there. Once you're in the community, you'll notice a couple of differences here as well. One is we'll make it much easier to go in and lay out your community to select which widgets or which applications you want to include in it and where they're located on the screen. If you're using a template, of course, this will come pre-populated with that, just those elements and that look and feel based on the template, and it makes it very easy to customize and publish from there. Part of what we're working on as well is that lifecycle management. So when we go to set up a community, it might be something I keep locked down just to myself, or I might just invite a couple of other colleagues in to help work on it and test it out. And from there, I want to make it public or roll it out to the broader team that I want involved in it. So that's something that we'll make easy to do as well. Now you might notice that this looks a little bit different than communities and connections do today. We've moved the navigation bar over to the left. We have a universal search bar across the top. Again, much more in line with the industry standards today for laying out and navigation. And then on the right, you see the important to me bar, which today is surfaced in Orient Me, and you might recognize it from Verse as well. This is something that will be always present over on the right side of the screen. So that you can always have quick access to the people you work with most, the communities that you interact with the most, and they're never more than a click away there. So the navigation is across the top, and a couple of other things you may notice here. I've got some of the standard connections applications.
Adam?
Yes?
This is Howard. If you could wrap up, we're starting to run out of time. I want to get on with the next speaker.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. So just to wrap up here, you see some of the standard connections apps, and then you also see third-party applications. For example, a Teams chat brought directly in here, or a Volt application that can be surfaced inside of connections. And just the last piece to touch on here is we're also taking steps to make it easier to deploy. And so you'll have the option of deploying it on-premise like you can today, through a public cloud, through our cloud hosting partners. and then also through self-managed environments like OpenShift or the Google, Amazon, or Azure Kubernetes environments. So those are all things that will make it easier to deploy and save you on ROI as you go forward. And with that, I will turn it back over to Howard.
Thanks, Adam. And I'm going to now, David, you should be the presenter now. And for everyone attending, David, just for 1 second, when David wraps up, we'll still try to, have some time for questions, even if we have to run over a little bit. So we got some great questions, and if our presenters don't mind, we'll try to get David in and then stay a little extra for the Q&A.
No worries. So let me give you a bit of a change of gear to talk about digital experience now, but and I guess I'll try and just compress a little bit so you've still got some good time for questions. So digital experience, what's it all about, right? We use this term trusted for business critical digital experiences, and the thought is that essentially building websites is pretty straightforward, but the kind of websites that our customers build are all about digitizing business processes, integrating applications, integrating content, role-based access control, and they build websites that those customers then go ahead and rely upon. Right? That's what digital experience is all about. The solution is a platform for delivering that, platform for building those websites, mobile sites, content for multiple user populations off of the same platform. So in terms of talking about what we are doing, so I'm just going to scroll past some of these. In terms of talking about what we are doing with this product, let's go here. Sorry, I'm just going to, there we go, now I can go from there. So we released Digital Experience 9.5, and it really is focused on 3 themes, right? One is around making the product more cloud native, so that we lower TCO and deploy faster. The second is about reimagining the user experience of that product, because like many, it was something which was in need of a refresh. And the third is about opening up for new developer or for modern developer skills, basically. So few people really want to code Java for these web experiences anymore, and we need to keep up with that and ensure that the frameworks and tools that people are using today are compatible with our platform. So for the release that we are just doing, there is actually a webinar next week, a little bit of advertising. So there you go. The link will be in this deck when we distribute it, to talk about some of the features that I'm going to just quickly go over here. But I want to advertise that as a way of finding out more and more depth than we're going to achieve in the next 5-10 minutes. Just to give you an idea of our approach, if any of your existing customers, we have a cumulative fixed model for on-premises, and we've done that since 2014, and we're going to keep doing it. We're not going to break backwards compatibility. On Docker, we're going to have a much more frequent update, so roughly speaking monthly, and we're going to see a faster delivery of new features on Docker for the product. What HCL's done with this product since last year, we did a 9.5 in September, and then starting the beginning of this year, we did a series of monthly updates to the Docker containers. Those delivered a set of features as follows. We have enabled the product in Docker and Kubernetes, so we're not just doing Docker containers because that's kind of only part of the story. We need to have Kubernetes, and we've got an operator for automating things like provisioning, auto-scaling, self-healing. We targeted OpenShift and Amazon EKS, and we're going to expand that range of platform support. We've got Azure coming in just a few weeks' time, and then Google shortly after that. We deployed a new capability called Practitioner Studio, which unifies previously disparate set of tools into a single landing page for the product with all of the tools visible and accessible from that page, and then that's the destination for all new capabilities that we're going to add going forwards. We delivered a new demo site, which is called Woodburn Studio, which is there to help customers to build on top of the platform by giving them a working example of how the platform ought to be used. We delivered a new set of REST APIs So digital experience historically has had a mixed bag of APIs, some Java, some Atom feed, some REST APIs, and we've started to unify that into a modern OpenAPI compliant API. We're up to about 100 different endpoints now, and our goal is to have 100% of the product covered within that. That also includes GraphQL support, which is relevant if you are building, particularly if you're building mobile sites, you need to optimize the amount of data that you retrieve from the service. In terms of what's coming next, just next week, we are going to ship a new content management capability called Content Composer, which is a complete reinvention of our content management user experience. It's something which is focused on the highest value, or the highest frequency, I should say, use case in content management, which is creating content and modeling content. And from Practitioner Studio, we'll have a modern and completely reimagined user interface for content management capabilities. So it's going to look nice and clean, like the screenshot we see there. Just a couple of screenshots of that. So we've taken what was our WCM capability, and we've organized it a bit like this kind of Apple Finder sort of column-based view. Within that, we've got new capabilities for managing content and for actually creating the content structures within that. So there's a redone template designer as well. We have a new asset management capability as well, which will also launch next week. That is actually our first net new piece of functionality for DX in quite some time. And it's a whole new module that manages web-ready assets such as images, videos, and documents. In terms of its look and feel, it's a nice, clean, sort of modern user interface managing the images, files, and videos. And you can organize them into collections. We have some simple tools in line for managing and editing those artifacts. So, for example, crop, rotation, renditions, versioning are all going to be available within the product to allow you to, to kind of adapt your assets for the use case that you have in mind without necessarily having to do a round trip via your agency or via your creative team. We've got further work to do on Kubernetes native. So we are expanding to Azure, am I going to get it right? Azure AKS support for their Kubernetes service, and into Amazon EKS as well. Google Cloud Platform, Google GKE is going to follow next quarter as well. In terms of what we're doing for the rest of the year with this product, we're kind of most of the way through the year now. Obviously, we're just halfway through this. And you can see we have a cadence of doing a monthly release, and then every few months we're doing an on-premises release as well. I just mentioned DAM and Content Composer and the API. Those are becoming generally available at the end of this month. And then through the back half of the year, we're going to turn our focus, well, we're going to keep adding features to the DAM and the Content Composer, but we're going to turn our focus to developer support, specifically customer CI/CD. So providing facilities for integrating application deployment capabilities with your Jenkins or other pipelines, adding in support for progressive web applications, and also native integration with Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. We will also have commerce integration coming in the back half of the year, and a preview of a rebuilt site manager. So on top of the Content Composer that I showed you a couple of minutes ago, we will have a rebuilt site management capability that will take a similar sort of simplification approach that we've taken with Content Composer. And so, Howard, I've tried to just rush through that a little bit there to get through it. And so let me hand the ball back to you so that you've got some time for questions.
Great. Well, thanks, David. I appreciate that, and thanks to everyone for hanging in there. Let me.
Why don't we ask the question that was asked for David first, since he's still unmuted. There was a question that came in, David, just to post a link to next week's presentation in the chat for everybody to be able to sign in.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Graham. Okay, so yeah, we have a few questions here. Just for clarification, and maybe Andrew's the best one. What's the anticipated release date of Domino V12?
I'm still talking about the first half of 2021 next year.
Okay, very good. Anita somehow thought you might have said Q3 of this year, but that's early next year. And we get a question came in from Kim. Hi, Kim. She was wondering if the dates are set for the factory tour in September. And I guess, I don't know if that's being planned to do for a virtual factory tour, or we're really going to get a chance to see Jason in some sort of outfit in person.
Great question, Howard. It is likely going to be virtual. Unfortunately, I don't know where we'll be at that point, but I would assume we're planning for it to be virtual. But we are targeting September. So we feel pretty confident that that's the right timing for us. And it won't be, at least our current plan is it won't be quite as selective, I guess, because it will be much more open. So more to come on it, but we've established the focus, the agenda, and the team's starting to pull together content, and we'll start marketing it probably starting in July is when we'll start to market the actual event itself.
Okay, and it sounds like Jason's outfit is already planned out.
I'm drawing the line at little Bo Peep. I'm drawing the line.
In all seriousness, I have not told anybody yet what I'm thinking yet. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay, and just a comment for some of the other questions. So we're hoping we can kind of consolidate all the presentations and put them up on SlideShare. And we'll put a link in the post-webinar email for that, as well as a recording of this webinar. And also, if we don't get to any questions, we'll try to put maybe a summary up on the OpenNTF blog. We'll see how we can wrangle all our HCL presenters to get them to answer everything.
Yeah, Howard, I mean, you have our commitment that we'll do that. We do that as a best practice for all of our webcasts. So you'll have our assurance that we'll do that.
That'd be great. Thanks, Andrew. Graham, do you have a question ready?
Yeah, actually, there was 3 that came in quick succession while Jason was speaking. One from our colleague Heiko that says, when are all of these great things going to be in the product and supported? And I'll follow that up 2 other comments quickly. Just one that said, this is huge and that's freaking awesome. And not a question, but well done for tackling rich text. So Jason, good job.
So I just want to make clear what I was showing was, I think Richard calls it the art of the possible. We realize rich text is the problem. We have some very clear reasons why we want to solve that problem. Interop is one of the biggest ones, but I don't make decisions as to what goes in product. Mr. Manby and I work closely together hand in hand to see when it makes the most sense. And obviously my colleagues in core development would have to take the code we wrote and bring it into the product. I don't know, Andrew, if you wanted to add anything there.
Spot on, Jason. It's good stuff.
And I agree, it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, here's a question for you. First of all, related around the Let's Encrypt SSL. First comment was, thanks for making KYR easier. I guess hopefully it's going away and not being, which will make it a lot easier. But also there's a question from Chris. Can we request wildcard certificates?
Yeah, so in the first drop, the code will actually support an HTTP challenge, but we actually have it in our backlog to add for a subsequent beta. So you can actually do that as a DNS challenge as well. So yes, we will be able to support that by the time V12 gets delivered.
Okay, great, good news. And why we got you, and this is probably one of the often asked questions, but what about Domino Designer development X pages from Danielle? She was wondering about that.
Yeah, there are some things coming for Designer. We'll tackle those in a future webcast, so you'll have to stay tuned. But there will be some, we already committed at CollabSphere last year that we would go and make some updates to X pages. So details to come, but you know, maybe we'll make that the topic of a future webcast.
Yeah, just let us know. That sounds like a great topic, and I think a lot of folks would be interested.
Yeah.
While we got you, Andrew, also, I know Domino 9 was end of marketing a week or two ago, but what about the end of service? Any idea when that might be?
You know, if anyone wants to get hold of an active release of Domino, which is currently supported, they can do. There's not a problem with that. The end of support date for 9 is still the same date that was announced by IBM back in 2017, which is September of 2021. We're not ready to issue the announcement quite yet to give you the year's notice. You know, we have to work through what the details will be for extended support, but the date is unchanged. So if you have that date in your head, that's the right date.
Time to upgrade.
Yeah, it's time to upgrade to V11. V11 is the safe harbor release. V1101 is full of great goodies.
Okay, great.
There was a question about Verse and news about the contact section in Verse.
So that's a great question. Hi, Graham, by the way. So the thing that we're going to tackle, first of all, is a release after the 2.0 release. We're going to fix the contact image problem. So you'll actually be able to upload images from within Verse, as well as, you know, putting them into the NAB and taking the pictures out of the NAB. We're going to, for the time being, keep the same contact interface in iNotes, and then we're going to gradually deprecate that experience. But the plan is to change. Our focus right now is making sure that the contacts and the pictures work correctly from within Domino, because not everyone has connections deployed.
Good. There was a similar question that I think that answers as well.
Yeah, I think so. We have a question for moving on at the same time for Ginni. And Dennis was asking, I'll read his question. My company blocks YouTube access. This looks problematic with your built-in dependence. So Ginni, maybe you can address whether that is a dependence or just something that is optional.
Yeah, so Denise, there is no direct dependence. That's functionality that's there for you should you choose to use it to broadcast. But if you're talking about, you know, meetings functionality, we're going to support, you know, 50 users in a meeting. I mean, so you don't have to use the broadcast capability at all, unless you're doing maybe some event-based, you know, virtual event in your organization.
Yeah, Ginni, this is Andrew. I think it's fair to say, I mean, I know you and I have been talking about there are other broadcast solutions out there, right? That potentially we could, you know, in the future we would be able to support some of those others, because, you know, for the same reason the person asking the question made that comment, was that not everyone can get to YouTube, and there are other trusted streaming services that we would plug into. So, you know, I don't think that's coming in V12, right, Ginni? But that's certainly something that we would look at in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a question here about a roadmap on certification for individuals. That's probably one that Lewis would tackle if he were in the panel.
I can answer that one if you like.
Sure.
It's Tim Clark here, guys. The roadmap for that is that we are targeting next year, 2021, for certification for individuals and sales certifications. So that's all going to be part of the HCL Digital Solutions Academy that Lewis is running. But yeah, that's planned for next year.
Excellent. Skipping down here, some of these have already been answered. There was a positive comment about support for PWAs, so thumbs up from the audience to the HCL gang there. A question about the release date for Nomad Web.
The release date, well, the beta probably, I should have updated my slides, probably going to be in sort of July, August timeframe. We're still honing that in. You as you can imagine, this is brand new innovation in this particular area. But we're sort of thinking that we would ship it before V12 potentially. There are some dependencies associated with that. So depending whether we could ship it ahead of V12 or have to ship it with V12, that will sort of become cleaner. But we did put some things into 11.01 to enable us to get there. So stay tuned.
Excellent.
Okay, and I did put a link to the sign up for the beta for that in the chat.
Oh, Howard, you're a star. Thank you very much.
So if everyone wants to grab that before the webinar ends in a few minutes. And was there Ginni, was there a release date for the same time 11.5 meetings?
So we're still shooting for June the 30th, Howard. However, we, by the way, have our goal candidate today, and the team is just, pounding it down in terms of testing. There are some things we need to complete in terms of our testing, performance testing, FVT. So it's going to be close to June 30th. I want to say, maybe it's a few days later than that. That's something we're looking at as well. So I'm going to say end of June / early July at this point.
Excellent. We have another positive comment about rich text. Getting down to the bottom here, there's a question about Domino, integration between Domino and QuickBooks. Actually, that's interesting that question is asked because I've been asked that question by one of my customers as well.
I've heard that throughout the years.
Yeah.
Which I think QuickBooks actually has an API now.
They
yeah,
do,
I think
absolutely.
all of them. This is Andrew. I think all of them they've worked with a number of integration vendors like Zip and Zap for a period of time. I think they're a lot more open than they used to be. As a QuickBooks user, the landscape has actually changed, and that's actually something that, as we think about more this sort of fabric idea around surrounding things such as Vault, I think the idea is that we'll have like a connections factory, so we can actually create these connectors much more easily. So I don't see why something like QuickBooks would be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in the interest of time, we've got 3 more questions, and then I think we should wrap it up, Howard.
Yeah, I think this is one that a lot of people have been asking for a while. So we'll ask it here. A community edition equivalent for Domino.
This is Andrew. I have it on my radar to do. The infrastructure and the HCL is different to IBM. I'm looking at the possibility of a community edition of Domino and also a community edition of Vault. We're actually focused on a single trial license of Domino, Vault, AppDev, PAG, Verse, and Traveler as a single Docker image right now. So let's get that out of the door. That will be the next thing that we're going to focus on.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
There's a question in here about, for Domino, is there any news about a code repository support? So there has been code repo support in Domino for some time, but I'm actually going to take this one unless somebody else wants to jump in. One of our board members, Jesse Gallagher, has spent a bunch of time looking at integration and automation for being able to do a connection to code repos. So if you follow through the OpenNTF website into Jesse's blog or through Planet Lotus, you'll be able to find some stuff on that.
Okay, I think we've covered most of them. Whatever we didn't cover, or even if we covered it, we'll try to summarize the questions and put it up on the OpenNTF blog. So unless anyone has any last final remarks?
I think we're good. I want to just say thank you to everybody.
Yes, thanks to all the HCL presenters, and thanks to Graham, as well as to Jesse Gallagher, who is standing in as a co-host as well. So we'll see you at our next webinar, possibly in July, and I promise we'll get that back down to webinars that are only an hour and very focused. For these first 2 webinars that we did as OpenNTF, we wanted to cover some pretty broad topics. But probably from now on in, they're going to get a lot more focused on a particular topic. So please stay tuned to our website and various other communications media to find out about the next webinar. And thanks to everyone for attending.
Thanks, Howard. Thanks, Jesse and Graham. Cheers, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.